just while he gets that set up, tell a little bit about myself. Actually, relationship within the industry. Actually, even Tom. I've known Tom for many decades, but I used to live in Biggar for 3 years, going back when I was a kid and played lots of hockey and lacrosse, and I played on some teams with Tom. I'm not as old as Tom. Not that that's an insult, because I'm still getting up there, but we had lots of fun over the years, and this kind of reconnected back through the industry. But I've been with Auto Electric Service for 35 years now, and our company's been around since 1943, so we're 78 years old. And kind of relevance why Tom thought, well, it might be a good thing to have me speak a little bit about AIA, in the fact that with living in Regina and being in the industry this long, more of a localized presence for a group that's really a national group representing our whole industry. So that's where we thought that we'd be able to at least be able to bring some local and be able to share some of the things that AIA is doing, some of the things you might not be aware that we're doing. In fact, even the fact of what AIA is. And when I get into some of my slides, there's some more information around that. But I did think that just the fact our business, as I said, 78 years, but we've been in the PBE side of the business since 1955. And so we do totally understand the importance of the collision sector. Our PBE supply side has been a very important part of our business. So it's something that I've tried to make sure that as a company and personally that I stay very informed on, because I see the collision sector as really the forefront to what's happening in the automotive aftermarket. What happens at a shop level are the trends and challenges that we see across the whole industry. And so I have a lot of respect for all the people in the collision industry, and the fact that you guys face stuff day in, day out that mechanical shops do not face with. You're dealing in a different model, dealing with insurance companies versus just dealing with the specific car owners. So it's a different business, but it's also one that I think creates a great deal of challenge, but at the same time a great deal of reward, because it does test your guys' skills to be able to. I'll just get logged in here. Okay, yep, there we go. Okay, so I've kind of done a little bit of my preamble on that. So I will talk a little bit about the AIA, and I am, Tom said, president. Actually, we have a president. I'm the chairman of the board. I've been on the board for the past, I guess it's now into my 4th year that I've been with AIA. That role is as chairman right now, last year vice chair, and then this year as chairman. Not sure why we're getting the flicking, but in that role, I've been able to see a whole different aspect of what AIA is all about. And it's way larger than what I thought, coming from the wholesale parts. The mainstay of our business has always been on the wholesale distribution side of parts. But as I said, we have a strong presence in the PBE side. So I knew that AI had involvement. I didn't realize that it was as big of an involvement as it was. And you see some of the logos that are up on that board. Those are some of the things that AIA is all about. Kind of the associations that we have, recognize some of the big ones. ICAR is a huge part of our, what do we got? Okay, there's my technology expert. There we go. Don't move. So so from that standpoint, when you look at the group, the CCIF, see, now it flashed. But CCIF, I know that in seeing the crowd, I've talked, lots of people that attend CCIF And it's been a challenge over the last while with COVID. There's no question. I will say that in the last meeting I was at, that they are, from a standpoint of being able to go live, probably the Toronto meeting in that January timeframe is what they're shooting for. I know that there's been some virtual meetings and there's been some cancellations of some of the meetings. So hopefully we're back on track, but who knows with this COVID situation where it's all going. So hopefully we can deal with that. I am going to talk, probably a little bit more in depth on the ICAR part of this presentation, because I think those are the things that are probably most relevant to the group here. I know that there's certainly, it's a big part of the collision side. It's a big part of the whole SGI accreditation process, all of those things. I won't say it's a perfect system. And I think that there's, I've heard concerns over the last while about what, some of the training aspects, things to be able to, make it more relevant in some cases. But at the same time, the presentation that I get into on ICAR, maybe will draw a little bit more light around that. Another one is Canada Night. For anybody who attends SEMA, there's probably a chance you've had the opportunity to attend Canada Night in Las Vegas. And unfortunately, we just made the call a week and a half ago that we are going to be canceling Canada Night for the upcoming SEMA show. It really, unfortunately, have seen a real drop off in the potential of people that were going to be attending the Apex and SEMA shows. So it just didn't make sense holding that event, first from a safety standpoint, but second from a value to our sponsors, because it's a big event, it's a very costly event, and we need to make sure we're providing value. One thing I want to talk about with the AIA, and I put it up there, this is our current AIA Board of Directors, and some names to faces. That the real relevant point here is the mix of our Board of Directors on who's there. It's not, when I probably thought about the AIA 15, 20 years ago, it was really about manufacturers and wholesale distributors on the automotive mechanical side. Today, that's not the case. We have a very well-represented board of the total aftermarket and the automotive aftermarket. And I'll point out a few people specifically that provide a lot of insight into the total aftermarket. You'll see Ryan Bruno, the head of CSN, is on our board. Steve Leal, the head of Fix Autos, on the board. Craig Jalbert is the head of Canada from 3M, on the board. So the influence in the collision sector is very, very big. I would say over the past years, though, AIA hasn't done a very good job in making sure that the collision sector, understands the role that AIA plays. I think it was on purpose with the role of CCIF, ICAR, those type of things. Those were the names and the brands that were in the forefront, not AIA. But I do want bringing this presence to the fact that there is a whole national association, and associations such as SAAR that do this on a local level is fantastic, and the participation, it's great to see. But there is a real need for a national association, the tying in. I talked to Tom the other day, and AIA is going to have SAAR as a member of the AIA. We'll provide that association membership to it. I think there's a lot of information that SAAR could get from AIA, as you'll see from our presentation. But the bottom line is that overall the board that we have are extremely intelligent people, but also very well represented throughout the total aftermarket, not just one particular sector. The AIA staff, you may not know, we have about 25 staff in Ottawa, and a lot of different jobs. We're also huge on the lobbying side. We employ government relation lobbyists in Ottawa. Unfortunately, if you want to get stuff done these days, you have to spend the money and have the lobbyists in Ottawa. Prior to the election being called, there was two main bills that were going through the House and in second readings, and it was to the betterment of our industry as far as the information, the Your Car, Your Data, and I'll talk about that in a second, the right to repair. All of those things are making sure that information is being supplied to the aftermarket, so we're capable of continuing to repair vehicles. This is the big campaign that had gone through. We had received about 45,000 signatures under this, and it was really gaining that information to make sure that the OEMs were having to provide the information to the aftermarket. And I won't say the collisions side is, as bad as what happens on the mechanical side, because mechanical side, it's very tough to get all of the information from the OEs. But the trending that we're seeing is it was going to get harder and harder to be able to get that information. And so that's where, the ongoing fight is to make sure that that information is becoming available to the aftermarket. A big part of the AIA and what I want to talk about is also the research that goes into it, the information that's provided to the aftermarket, the data dilemma. One of the brochures that was put out, the Canadian consumer attitudes toward in-car data. So anything that involves kind of research around the aftermarket, the automotive driving public, that's where AIA spends a lot of money and does a lot of research, pays a lot of consultants to provide that information. A lot of that information is put forward in the 2020 Outlook study. That's great information, as I say, for SAAR to be able to access all of that information on a no-charge basis will be helpful. I'm sure what I know from Tom is that he's a great researcher himself, and we'll look at that information and pass that around to everyone. Just tying in with one of the presentations yesterday was understanding millennials, a quick profile of young Canadian vehicle owners. That's a great, piece of information. We were talking yesterday with the trending that's going on. And I look at, there's not that many millennials in this room. So it is pretty important that we understand who that market is, because how they think is not the way we think by and large. And it would be a good thing to educate yourself on who those people are that you're employing, as well as who those customers are that are coming in the door and how they want to be serviced. So great information that way as well. Another one, and this one maybe a little bit more on the mechanical, but I certainly think it applies on the repair, the collision repair side. At your service, how do Canadians select their automotive repair shop? It's, again, understanding who it is, the customer that's out there. Collision side, a little bit different when you're dealing with the insurance companies on how that selection process. But in Saskatchewan, ultimately, that consumer makes a choice where he wants to take that vehicle. It's unlike in some provinces where it's maybe dictated to them. In Saskatchewan, you still have that option to be able to go to where you want to take your vehicle to. So just a quick touch. Obviously, because of COVID, we've had to move away from some of the in-person type of meetings and different things. And there's a series, I don't know if anybody's had a chance, they've come, it's called Curbside Chat, started a year ago with our past chairman, Susan Hitchon, and just interviewing industry leaders. And I've been taking that on. I just finished one about a month ago. I've got another one coming up on September 23rd. And it's really about just getting insight from different people that are key players in the aftermarket. I know that Susan, in the second podcast that was done last year, did hers with Steve Leal from Fix Auto, and it's always interesting to get a different perspective of each sector. And so my presentation coming up on the 23rd is going to be with Michael he's the vice president of Dorman in the US, and dealing a lot around the information and the availability of parts and some of those concerns that are happening in the distribution channels. So I expect that should be a very interesting one to deal with as well. Michael's an extremely intelligent person, and I've had a chance to talk with him a few times through our other business relationships, and the guy has tremendous insight into what is happening and where the future is going on that side of the business. So a big one on the ICAR, and obviously everyone knows that. But I think the most apparent side, for ICAR is helping in the industry to meet the future. Obviously, the technical and data transformation, the training to meet new technology, shop standards, all those things. SGI certainly incorporated the biggest chunk of that into their accreditation program with the gold class program. But the whole industry around ICAR to have a national program, and not even just national, because it's really north, where you're dealing in the US, it's a global program of training, and being able to put those standards in place certainly brings the quality of repair into play. And I think it's very important that as an industry, as technology continues to change, that you need access to that information to be able to fix these cars. Sometimes it's challenging, and I know some of the complaints that I've heard has been maybe on the fact that, well, some stuff is just too basic. We need to move it to another level of the training for some shops, and I agree. The point of me bringing this up is that in Canada, we are ICAR, but we're obviously not ICAR who creates all the trainings, everything else. We do the distribution of all the training programs. We do all the coordination of that. But obviously ICAR is in the US, their head office people and the leaders of ICAR. It's interesting in the fact that they are well represented, in the fact that they are represented by the OEMs, they are represented by the collision repair people, and they are represented in the insurance people. So the top people of ICAR represent the full collision industry and all the training standards. So all we can do within Canada and is, if there's concerns around ICAR, your best bet is to go through AIA. You can see the email address there, collisiontraining@aiacanada.com. If there's suggestions you have pertaining to ICAR, you'd like it, some changes made to it, I'm certainly not standing up here guaranteeing we can do it, but if you don't express your concerns, you won't have change made. And they are going to go with what they suggest is the best way. But many of you know Andrew Shepard from AIA. He's a longtime AIA person. That's the email address that he'll pick up at. And so he's the one who coordinates directly with ICAR out of the US. Just a couple of the courses, a lot is talked about ADAS. These are some of the courses that are going to be appearing very quickly. I think some of them might already be here. If they're not, they're going to be out shortly. But a lot of training pertaining to the ADAS systems and hopefully addressing some of the concern about give us the training that we need today for the cars that we're having to fix. And so they are listening and trying to get some of that training. But certainly there's always going to be a lot more courses on the way. But this you should be seeing very quickly. One of the things that's changed over the last little while has been a change and the paint companies stepping up to the plate, where a lot of the training that you do through them is being forwarded through, so you can get your credits through ICAR to help you in your certification processes. So all of that work kind of behind the scenes, making it easier in the process. But we do appreciate the fact that the paint companies are working and being able to do that, paying the costs. You may or may not know that there is still costs if you're taking that training to get your ICAR certification, and they are paying that. One thing within the AIA that is important is that all of these people on this list are also paid members of the AIA. So again, back to that relevance of the AIA within the collision sector, some of the biggest companies in that sector are all members of AIA, and we certainly within various committees and executive committees, their key people are sitting on those to make sure that the voices are being put forward. The final thing that kind of wrap up with, or take some questions, just as an association, a national association, we felt it was very important also to give back to the communities. And an association that was structured under the AIA is a foundation called High Fives for Kids. And so you may or may not have attended some of the AIA golf tournaments, various things like that, the fundraisers that they do. That side, all of that money goes into this foundation, and with the whole purpose of going back to various types of kids foundations. And there is a pool of money, and I'll say that within your businesses, different things, some of you get involved in different charities and things like that. If it's a charity involving children, there's likely an opportunity for you to get some matching money through the AIA, even though you might not be members of AIA. Certainly there's companies like ourselves that are AIA members, Sutherland Automotive. Like there's a lot of your wholesale distributor, PBE suppliers that are members, and we can work it back that way. So keep that in mind as an opportunity, that if you are doing charity work and you want to give back to programs that involve children, there is probably some extra money that you maybe didn't realize it was available. So just certainly you can reach out and ask the questions. A great resource, as opposed to me trying to cover everything, is go to the AIAcanada.com website. All of the programs, everything is listed there, what's involved, even the membership side of things. And I would say anybody in the collision or in the aftermarket can become a member. There is a fee. Do I recommend that everybody is a member? I'd love to see it, but at the same time, within your own business, you have to justify whether that investment makes sense. I know everybody pays their memberships to be part of SAAR, so you can only pay so many memberships and belong to so many associations. So I think that the fact that having SAAR as a member of the AIA is certainly a step forward in getting that tie-in and being able to provide that information and to be able to tie into some of these charitable programs that are there. I guess the final thing that I'll kind of close on is just the fact that within an association like the AIA, we want to make sure that we're hearing what the interests of the whole aftermarket are. And so when it comes time to express concerns, whether it be around training or just access to information, those type of things, know that as a national association, that's ultimately where you can get things done on a grand scale. But having associations like SAAR dealing on your local level, that is just as important. So I think it's really, you have to approach, moving, I guess, causes forward at not just a national level, not just at a provincial level. You have to be able to do it throughout, and all levels. And even the fact that AIA right now is partnering with AutoCare out of the US in driving a lot of this information on the right to repair, it has to be a global effort. And that type of, I guess, momentum and getting politicians on board, because nothing is going to change unless you have the support of legislation and documentation at a government level. Unfortunately, that's a slow process, but it is important, and politicians tend to do things that'll get them votes. So if they hear the voters out there wanting something done, and the collision sector or the aftermarket section in Canada represents 495,000 jobs. And so in all the different related, whether it be glass, collision repair, automotive repair, retail, as Graham Jeffrey with Canadian Tire, he's the vice president, is on our board of directors. That whole aftermarket side, there's a lot of people and a lot of votes, and politicians like to get votes. So that's when you can put that lobbying voice forward. We're currently in a campaign with a consulting company and lobbying company to move this legislation forward on right to repair, as I said. But until election's over, it's kind of started all over. That's the unfortunate part of dealing, I guess, with the government, is that, you go along, and then all of a sudden it can end very quickly. And then unfortunately you have to start it all over again. So, but I do think, I will say, last week I was in San Antonio for meetings. It was my first chance to get on an airplane for a very long time. And then this week coming here and having meetings in person, it's great to actually get in front of people again and socialize rather than doing it on the virtual computer screen. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time. And obviously, thank you for your attendance in being here for this conference. So